Afternoon, right after 9 noon. Sharon Nkrumah and Lady Che reporting live from the state capitol building where we have a reparations hearing.
I call them lazy beans. That motherfucker did perfect bed dismounts.
Yeah.
Look at the baby puppet. Look it, it's a drone.
Oh yeah, it is a drone.
Oh yeah, you got us a camera.
Camera, 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 camera.
Yeah, look at right there.
Yeah, I see it.
All that. Right?
Is that y'all?
Like the spirit did it for black, so you all been looking at it.
Right.
I got the problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got
Mm-hmm. Right. Drone following. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep.
I mean, they kind of did, right?
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. The 07s are entering the building. Oh. Hello, I have electronics. This is good. I'm gonna put yeah, it's just her. It's just her car. You're okay. You're fine. Okay, thank you. So you guys are good. And then would you mind going back through real quick, just hold your hands over your head? Come on back. Yeah, it should be in the old library. We're going to the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's exactly why we need reparations. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, y'all want to state the capital. We have reparations hearing going on. Right.
That's the only thing that does it.
Mm-hmm.
To that extra.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Any of that.
Nope.
Good, man, you good.
Yeah.
Right. Tell like good.
Is it 2 or 1?
Two. Staples
Hey, Michael.
intimidation shit.
Mm-hmm.
Which was ready to manhandle us.
Yes, she was.
Just give her one opportunity, she would have did it.
Right. My high. Right. Shit. I forgot how to get in there. I know. It's around here somewhere, though. It's at the old library.
Oh, it's that way.
That's what I thought, too. But this whole place looks the same. Yeah. Let me show you. You stay on white supremacists. Right. You know where the old library is? The old library. The old library?
Old State Library is over here. Probably, I don't think it's open.
Oh, God.
It's the door between the elevators.
On this floor, right?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, great day.
Mm-hmm. There it is. All the black people. Yeah, that's what we're working on, Michael. Thank you.
Certain union or have what you didn't find.
My personal favorite was when they would sing
You know,
Negro
something.
spirituals. Now, of course, at the tender age of 5 or 6, I had no idea what it meant. I was drawn to those Negro spirituals, sometimes some acapella. But now, in a later season of life, I can honestly say I am still a big fan of Negro spirituals. Because these work songs, as they are often called, that were created by enslaved Black people, enslaved Africans here in this country, our country. Although they were work songs, they played a significant role in our history as a people. Because they were used on the Underground Railroad, that call and response has been used in time and time again at funeral services or for celebrations or even family get-togethers. That familiar
They did.
can be heard all across the country on Sunday, still to this day. And my favorite Negro spiritual is that of the song Wade in the Water. So the grounding theme for today is Wade in the Water. Now, when you look up wade in the dictionary, it is defined as walking with effort. Walking with effort. And when I think of the Black experience in Colorado and beyond, I know for sure our ancestors walked with effort. Those beautiful Negro spirituals, those work songs, although they were originating from a heavier time, almost every single Negro spiritual did two things. It anchored determination and elevated hope. We are now living in a season where we need more than ever to be able to reflect with a sense of pride and comfort, all of us, on the two beautiful concepts of determination and hope. The past has so many told stories to tell. We see it every day in the work that we're doing through the evidence study. But it's important to remember that the stories that we're collecting of Black Coloradans don't just tell of a time long gone. There's relevance in the stories we're collecting in present day, both through our community listening sessions and through the beautiful oral history effort being led by Chatoya Bunker and our research historians. When we last met in August of this year, at this very room, many of us did not know how the next month or so
Yeah, bring that to you. How you been?
and yet we are here, existing, living, and experiencing a season where many families that we know of are going hungry, are in a reduced state of circumstances because of decisions being made. The present stories have value, not just because they're happening in the present day, but because they remind us of the work that there is to be done. And when I reflect upon that, and upon the beautiful scope of work that you approved back in January of this year, to focus on access, access to wealth, health, education, and justice, it prompts me to briefly share a testimony and to share my story. When we wrapped in August, a few months ago, I had severe back discomfort. I'm a former athlete, I know you can tell, but I was pretty cold.
Yeah, it look like you're pretty big.
So I thought it was just back pain. What I did not know was a week later, I would
Yeah, I seen that.
who is my person of color, who I respect greatly.
I did a whole lecture
And
stream
I
yesterday.
told her about my discomfort. She dismissed my discomfort, gave me a prescription for over-the-counter pain medicine, and simply said, if you got ibuprofen, you'll be fine. I said, this feels different. Please listen to me. Is there anything that I can do? She said, Chloe, I can go for it. You'll be fine. And in that moment, I did, at the age of 46, what I could never have done at the age of 26. I advocated for myself. And I said, please, can you just run some tests just to be sure? That was a Thursday. 3 days later, I got a phone call at 8:04 a.m. in the morning. I was calling my daughter's spirit, preparing her for school. It was my daughter. Her voice was harried and frenzied. She was nervous. She revealed to me that my test results concerned her deeply. She also revealed that I should get into an office and get a CAT scan as soon as possible. The earliest they could give me was a week and a half out. That was a Monday. By Tuesday afternoon, I was able to make the office and kept overnight. And if you had told me when we waved goodbye in August,
Yeah, this is the same ones.
hearts full of joy for the research and the work that's being done, but over the next month or so, I would have 4 separate surgeries. I would have said, that's not my story. I share that not to be on the record sharing my personal health business. I share that because that's my testimony. I could barely walk for 3 weeks. And even though I have a cane, I walked in here.
Yeah, we have voting yesterday too.
That sometimes you can't tell the story until you're on the other side.
Democrats won here too.
I'm here on the other side. This is happening to people of color throughout the state every day.
Black people.
And when I began reflecting in preparation for this
I hate that people of color stuff.
anecdote and this sharing today, so many of my friends and colleagues started sharing stories of how they felt dismissed, of how they felt unseen. And it was important to be able to share that with you right now. Not just a story we found in the archives or an oral history that came to us from a friend. I am your sister. I am here and I am telling you that we need to shift the energy around how we serve, support, and encourage Black people, not just in our country, but specifically for today's purposes, in this state.
Oh, you're welcome, Michael.
So while it may hurt a little to walk, with a little effort, I'm making it through. And I submit to you that no matter what you've been navigating personally, your own experience, or with a family member or a friend, the season ahead is one that will require all of us to not just hum a little, sing a little, and hold something dear close to our hearts. It will be a call for us to meet the very moment by sharing our stories, past and present, to ensure a more inclusive future. At this time, I would like to allow for Dr. Scott Spillman respectfully to share with you a brief overview of the extensive work that our organization
This is the third one we've had this year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plessis. Thank you for sharing your testimony. And for those of you who have never been to a Racial Equity Study Commission meeting, you will never attend a committee like ours, where you get a chance to hear powerful stories as it connects to the work that we get to do. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Dr. Stillman, please.
Thank you. We provided our usual research update with details on the work that we've completed since our last meeting, and welcome any questions that the Commission has on those details. But for this meeting, now that we've been in place for a year or so, I thought I would zoom out a little bit to provide an overview of the work that we've done so far as a full team across the realms of research, oral history, writing, and outreach. So for research, our team has completed 6 investigations on specific topics, such as criminal justice in the early 20th century, or banking from the New Deal to the 1970s. Currently, another 8 investigations are in progress, with most of those scheduled for completion by the end of this year or early next year. And we plan to complete another 10
No, we
to 12
got here too late, Michael.
investigations by next fall at this time. In addition, we've consulted with about 50 professors, graduate students, archivists, and local historians across the state, and to some extent across the country as we've planned our research. For oral histories, we've conducted 11 of those so far and have another 8 scheduled before the end of the year. Our goal is to complete 100 by the end of 2026 at a pace of about 1 to 2 per week. We've also identified roughly 70 to 75 existing oral histories with Black Coloradans that are held at local libraries, museums, and historical societies statewide. And we're hoping to get many of those digitized and transcribed as part of our work. For writing, we've drafted 2 sections.
I've got to research what we've been through
for our final report, and should have a 3rd section drafted by the end of this year. And we're hoping to have a preliminary
we'll speak at the end, Michael.
by about this time next year, which will allow us to spend the remaining months of the study both revising the report and pulling together a variety of supplementary materials such as data tables, maps, images, primary sources, and so on. And finally, for outreach, we've conducted 3 official community meetings in Denver, in Pueblo, and most recently online, which have connected us with a total of nearly 100 Coloradans. Another 3 community meetings are scheduled for next spring in Boulder, Colorado Springs, and Durango. In addition, Chloe and I have begun giving presentations on our work in progress to a variety of local groups, most recently St. John's Cathedral and the Rotary Club of Southeast Denver. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stillman. Would anyone else like to give any reports or updates? I have some questions. More than happy to. If any of our members have questions, but I just want to start off. Has there been progress in the data collection from other state agencies, Black Coloradans? Mr. Valdez?
Yes, very excited to report that we are pulling quite a bit of data
it would have been better if Dr. Claudia Sunny Dewey spoke at the hearing.
historical data as well as data from this time period. So
Right, this has already been documented.
we have pulled out all of the data about Black Coloradans from about 20 reports that they have put into place, and we are continuing to do that. We should have quite a bit of data pulled together so that researchers can use it in the future, but so we can also do a pretty in-depth health equity analysis from 1929 all the way to present day, which is exciting. When it comes to employment business data, we've been able to get in contact with divisions that are focused on that, and so we're pulling that data out as well. I have a wealth fellow that has been pulling out quite a bit of data around businesses, creating a database of Black businesses, and pulling out a lot of employment equity data as well from some of these reports. So it seems like we're now chugging along very quickly on that data work, and it will be very helpful for our research and researchers.
Thank you very much, and that really means a lot to us, and the way we are advised and informed to do the work we do here at the Capitol, hearing from state agencies is important. So appreciate the work you've done and engage with them. Members, any other questions? Commissioner Brown.
I see that you all have compiled a database of all known Black prisoners in the state penitentiary from 1870 to 1980. Have there been any trends or anything that has stood out in particular as it relates to that one?
Dr. Jones.
Thank you so much.
Got it.
Thank you for the question. I'm still working on putting that database together. The trends, and was just talking with Dr. Sloan about this a little bit earlier. I'm working my way up through 1940 right now, and then we'll be on the other side of that pretty quickly. But the trends that I'm seeing thus far from 1871, when the penitentiary was created, received its first prisoners up through that period where I am right now, looking at the data, has Black prisoners incarcerated. At least anywhere between 5 to 10 times of the proportion that Black Coloradans represent in the state at this point.
Commissioner Brown.
I'm also curious if you're seeing any differences in the way the Black prisoners were treated compared to others.
Dr. Jones.
So I'm still looking at that with regard to the penitentiary itself and the sentencing. If I can make sense of it, it's a little bit difficult with the overall aggregate records. I can speak to that. I did see that with regard to capital punishment at the penitentiary, which is where they carried out those executions. The percentage of botched executions for Black Coloradans who were sentenced to death was a much higher rate than other Coloradans, meaning the ways in which those executions were carried out or the manner which they met their deaths was much longer over a prolonged period of time. For instance, if they were hung or hanged. And the ways in which their deaths were talked about in the newspapers, the rhetoric that's used around their deaths was very, very different than for someone who was not of color. Also, I've been able to look at, and you'll see a picture on the handout that you have too. I looked at the Denver arrest records for the city at first of Denver, and then later when the county was created from 1895 until 1915, so for a good 20-year period, just looking at the arrest records. And probably unsurprisingly, the percentage of Black Coloradans or Black Denverites who are represented there is 6 to 10 or more times. Sometimes we'll see it even go over 10%, even though the Black population of Denver the time was about 2.5%. They represent somewhere around 10 to 12% of those persons being arrested within the books for that 20-year period. And those are housed at History Colorado, those arrest records. And you can see one of them, and this is for Callie McPherson. And I'll just, before I talk about her, I'll just go back out and say, to answer your question, one of the things that struck me there, in addition to the overall percentage of Black Denverites being arrested, is for Black women in particular. If you look at white women who are, for their occupation, listed as prostitutes or sports, those white women, it's in the 20% range for those who were listed with that as their occupation. For Black women who were picked up for theft or larceny or other crimes, you'll see listed for their occupation, approximately 45% of Black women are listed with the occupation of prostitute or alley worker. That was not the case for Callie McPherson. She's actually arrested for murder. If you look there, you see that on the handout that you have. And these arrest records are quite remarkable. One that we have with pictures, the mugshots, for those who were arrested. Callie McPherson was arrested on August 30th of 1906 for murder. She was a Black woman, Black Denverite, listed as a waitress, but some of the information, she's 18 at the time that she is arrested. But you can also see the way that she's described. Her complexion dark brown, her hair kinky, right? So she's kind of, it's this reductive language and rhetoric. Also, she's listed as known to wear a wig. Her eyes are listed as maroon, and you'll see this a lot in prison records at King and City. Also, a lot of these arrest records, so a lot of the ways in which you'll see rhetoric or complexion reduced to these types of characteristics. You'll also see for her down in the lower right-hand corner that she is discharged by a jury, so she is found not guilty of murder. She was accused of having murdered her female partner, and in the newspaper she is described as being a female of a perverted nature. She did have a female partner, and was accused of having killed that female partner in an altercation that took place on Lancaster Street. And that was, she was acquitted of murder, and she was defended by a famous Black attorney, Joseph Stewart, who won her acquittal, which is quite remarkable in 1906 that she is found not guilty and for self-defense in that altercation. But the ways in which she's described in the newspaper as being an enraged negress and of a perverted nature. But there's an incredible, rich story there that we can bring her back to life and show some of the harms that was done to her in reducing her to just a few descriptions and a few lines on an arrest record. So thank you for allowing me to tell the story.
Commissioner Brown.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate the work that you've done to uncover these instances, trends, all the ways you're compiling that data. I want to make sure that you've had an opportunity to share all that you want to share in terms of what you've been able to compile as it relates to criminal justice. But I also noticed that you brought up Joseph Stewart, and I understand that there are some things that have been uncovered. I know that he's often cited as the first Black legislator in the state, but it seems as though you may have uncovered some things, some new evidence.
So he's actually the second. He's often cited as being the first, but he's actually the second.
Yeah, they're not.
John Goodell was the first Colorado Black state legislator. He served from 1881 to 1883. and so Justice Stewart would be the second. But yeah, Justice Stewart is a remarkable individual, was a remarkable attorney. I think when he was able to quit, or when the acquittal for Callie McPherson, the newspaper, my colleague over here, Jim England, incredible volunteer for us, can't do this work alone, found that newspaper. He is listed as having recently won, or this was the third acquittal for largely Black people that he represented and defended in his work. It was also said that other attorneys did not like to work against him.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Commissioner, very good. Next up, we'll have Commissioner Emerson, then we'll go to Dr. Romero. Commissioner Emerson.
Thank you, Senator. I see that in your research you talked about finding information about racism. Can you just tell us a little more about any cases of rape and financial discrimination you uncovered since the last time?
Mr. Valdez.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We found quite a bit in some of these human relations reports that illuminate kind of the financial discrimination that was going on with financial institutions and realtors. I think that one of the major quotes that I thought was really important to bring up was from a realtor that was out at Denver National Bank. And he said in
Fixes it.
one of our reports,
And it shows
there is an unwritten law amongst real estate agents that Negroes cannot buy houses outside their area, no matter what the individual financial standing might be. We've seen this pretty consistently from about the 30s to the 70s. This gentleman's agreement between financial institutions and realtors not to show houses to Black people in certain areas, and also not to lend in those areas as well. We've also seen that multiple banks, the Colorado State Bank, argued that they would lose business if they hired Black people, and U.S. National Bank also said Negroes will not be employed in positions that are public facing. So we've seen in multiple of these human relations reports that the bankers and the realtors are not scared of saying that they are financially discriminating. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Emerson.
But so, what are some of the sources you're engaging as you're looking at how issues of discrimination?
Mr. Valdez.
We're engaging quite a bit of civil rights reports, commission reports from the state of Colorado, commission reports from the state of Colorado on human relations, and then when it comes to housing, we have quite the database of reports available for us. So probably couldn't list all of them out here at the moment. I might ask if Chief Walker has any comments on that.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you. For my election district, I've been doing some about archival collections. The Parco Action Committee and Parco Inc. has a lot of information about the integration in that neighborhood in the 60s and 70s. I've also been doing newspaper searches for contemporaneous reports about housing discrimination.
Commissioner.
And a lot of that times, I'm sure your research is going to show how it's tied to the red line, different areas. I love that you mentioned the rainbow cars playing on different areas of our state. So we all just talk about but what are some of those unique findings that you found in those places in other areas of the state?
Mr. Valdez.
I would say right now we are following multiple leads in those areas to look for restrictive covenants and areas in Pueblo and Durango. But at the moment we have not that we have confirmed. But we, in a lot of, especially these community listening sessions, one of the questions that we ask around housing is if they know of any neighborhoods that did have racially restrictive covenants, so that we can focus our energy on those needs in those neighborhoods, some of those mortgages.
Very good. Before we go to Dr. Romero, I cannot remember if I did this or not. Ms. Joao, please, and Commissioner Cooper's rule. Dr. Romero.
Yeah, I want to circle back a little bit to some of the scope of the sources that are being used in the criminal justice research. And I have a particular specific question about police courts in particular, municipal police courts, not only in Denver, but in other jurisdictions across the states, and specifically in ways that maybe police court judges might have been, if you come across any research to talk about some of the ways that they've been trying to identify who's black and who isn't for purposes of certain types of statutes, such as Colorado's anti-miscegenation statute.
Very good, Dr. Jones.
So that's been one of the ways that I've been trying to access that is to look at the Canyon City prison records and to glean from those records and to pare that down on a county by county basis to see percentage-wise, not just to look at arrests and the population on a statewide basis, but to try to get at those numbers on a county by county basis and then to drill down on that a bit more. One of the things that's been really interesting but also difficult to ascertain is the ways in which race is quantified or to determine that, because I've noticed that it shifts over time. Not only did I see that was shifting over time in the just Denver and the city records, and the ways that they were characterizing that just over a 20-year period, but it's certainly changing and shifting over time going to the Canyon City records. And everything from using more racially explicit characterizations to then going away from those terms and then using eye color, hair texture, and they're also trying to track where people are coming from in terms of immigration as well, especially around the turn of the century and heading into the early 20th century. So it's been both interesting and fascinating, and I'm trying to get at that, but it shifts so much over time that it has been difficult to find a way to track it also over time. Any advice or insight on that, Dr. Romero, because I know if you're working in prison work would be most appreciated as well.
Dr. Romero. Good.
Yeah, I would be happy to follow up. I certainly, I think if there might be some high-profile cases in which obviously a record of cash rate has been kept, it might be important to identify some of those cases beyond Denver. I think there's some examples of Denver, but of course, statewide are probably important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, Commissioner Coleman, and then we'll go with Dr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to struggle to avoid making a pun with this, is trying to find organic for a great reason, because Ms. DePlus, your opening comments really did strike a chord with me, being a musician myself. I understand, in any kind of genre of music, and you've alluded to this, the importance and the role that creating music together has in the community, building the community, right? And it was really because there's a really famous quote from the Czech composer Anthony Dvorak, who spent a lot of time in the United States founding the school in New York that would become Lady Juilliard. It was in that school at the time. And he had a colleague at Paris Ballet who was a black and they spend a lot of time traveling the country. So this Czech man got this firsthand sight of how, as they traveled into the Northeast, Midwest, of how differently Mr. Belay, his colleague, was treated as they made their travels. They also spend a lot of time in the Native communities in Iowa. I get all to say that the takeaway of this European composer who spent 2 years in the United States, colleagues with Johannes Brahms and all the great European composers was, his quote was exactly, the future of American classical music will be founded in the Negro melodies. Now, of course, he was wrong. It turns out all of American music ends up being founded in Negro melodies. I just wanted to add that because it's, for me, that was definitely a struck chord because, again, particularly over raising the community building of music making, and I just encourage more exploration in that because it is so important. And also just because I'm thinking about it, it also reminded me because we were talking about, oh, so-and-so was the first, they're not really the first, it's happened all the time. One of the first, not first, also happened here in Colorado, Charles Burrell, who we unfortunately recently lost, bass player, was the first Black American to be a full contract member of a American symphony orchestra. Again, it's one of those, was he really the first? I don't know, but here in Colorado, so we're going to take the first.
Right, that's usually how we decide that. If you follow up, Mr. Plessis.
Yes, thank you. I would also say that one of the things that has actually come up in all the community listening sessions we've had, and these smaller groups I've been working with over the past 11 months, typically anywhere from 5 to 7 interactions per week, and approximately 15 speaking engagements per month, this always comes up, this notion about the Black experience in the arts, but also the notion of potentially questioning our level of patriotism, to which I say, both as program manager for this beautiful project, this initiative, and as a working artist prior to that point, to the point of serving here, is that I submit to people that not only have we contributed greatly in this country, and that's often not reflected in the care we receive on all levels, that Black Americans are some of the most patriotic, because we have contributed greatly to all the things that people think about when they leave this country as American culture. The music, the food, innovation, cell phones, security systems, the street light as you pass through to come here today. All of this work that has been done. I would also submit, and I can't take credit for this, a colleague of mine mentioned to me a few weeks ago, that Black people were the very first on the list. We just didn't know it. So we are indeed patriotic, and we do contribute greatly to the culture that we all celebrate, and that so many who seek to not honor us or do us harm are very keenly unaware of how intertwined our story is with this country and with theirs. So thank you for sharing that. I also lived in Nkrumah for a year undergrad. When you were talking about that, I was very excited. Thank you for sharing.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Sampson.
Mr. Plessis, thank you for your robust information about healthcare and how there's past and current issues that need to be addressed. And I was thinking about when I go to schools, the stories that youth provide, which are current, but they really are intertwined with what you're doing here in this important research. And I'm not sure that I heard about when I think about the listening sessions, how will we get the stories of kids from maybe 13 to youth 25? How will we get their important stories that they have everything from resilience to triumph, to challenges? When I think about the listening sessions that are done already, where will the youth or the higher kids in college, where will we get their stories? How will we learn them?
Thank you very much, Dr. Sampson. And I would in addition, that has just any updates on health equity research, history of health equity in Colorado, Mr. Plessis.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Coleman and Commissioner Sampson, and thank you for all the work you did to ensure that the Pueblo listening session was rooted and deeply engaging. We are very grateful to you. You even offered a greeting to them in attendance, and we just had such positive feedback. We appreciate that. So we have an outreach strategy that will roll out in January of next year, and it will cover not just the listening sessions scheduled for next summer for youth and young adults. We are very mindful of including them. When we came in January for the first meeting, that was on the agenda for us to intentionally engage our youth. I even remember saying on the record that oftentimes when you have studies or initiatives to collect research, the two groups that are left out are almost always older adults and children and youth. And there's no reasoning for that because the older adults have lived through everything that we're trying to document, and the children and youth will inherit it. So we are very mindfully working with community-based groups now to confirm small intimate listening sessions. We'll also have waivers so we can ensure that the children are protected. We'll be doing that this summer, next summer, reaching out to them to collect their stories, and also having opportunities working with Shatoya to actually have young people come with a parent or guardian if they are under the age of 18. All of that will officially be rolled out in January, but they are a priority to us as well. It's also important to note that on the opposite side, we are working to partner with AARP, and we're very proud of that new partnership to engage older Black Coloradans. So we'll be partnering with assisted living facilities. We will be working with nonprofit organizations across the state to collect their stories. And not only collect their stories, but to share with them the visions of the study. They are here, they are vibrant, they have a lot to share, and we want to capture that and have them be a part of the study as well. So I am deeply encouraged on honoring both sides of our community for sure.
Very good. Dr. Sampson, any follow-up?
I'll help with AARP too. In that range.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sampson. Appreciate it. Commissioner Emerson.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the civil rights acts that were passed in the late 19th century, 1885, 1895 here in Colorado. What effects did that have on our community, and what are the lessons and experiences of it?
Dr. Stone, thank you for that question. And before I answer that, circle back to something that Dr. Jones was talking about earlier with the early Black legislatures. She's 100% correct that John T. Gunnell is the first Black legislator in Colorado in 1881. Recently, I've identified a second one who also predated Joseph Stewart. I don't want to have him get Mrs. Day in the sun. George C. Sample was also elected from Arapahoe County, at that time Denver, in the early 1880s. And both of those men were barbers and had relationships with the older generation of Black activists and politicians in Colorado. So John Gunnell worked in the barber shop of William Jefferson Harmon, who had led the push for Black suffrage and equal access to education in the 1860s and 70s. And George Sample actually married into the family of Edward Sanderlin, who had helped William Jefferson Harmon in the push for equal access to education in Denver. And so there was this sort of intergenerational relationship network of Black politicians who worked within the Republican Party and had a fair amount of, if not power, then at least influence in the 1870s and 1880s. And that leads into these Civil Rights Acts. As you all might know, in 1883, the U.S. Supreme Court, in the Civil Rights Cases decision, invalidated the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1875, which had provided for anti-discrimination in public accommodations across the country. And in the wake of that, a number of states in the North that had Republican majorities passed their own state-level anti-discrimination acts. And it turns out that Colorado was one of that wave of states that saw what was happening at the federal level with this rollback of anti-discrimination measures and decided to take action to put its own anti-discrimination measure in place. It was in fact the only Western state to do so in the immediate wake. It would be followed a little bit later by Washington and California, but Colorado did put that in place in 1885. Unfortunately, despite the state's attempt to put that in law, it did not follow up in terms of enforcement. And so Black Coloradans still got turned out of venues such as the Tabor Grand Opera House, which was at that time the biggest and fanciest theater in town. They were not allowed to go up the elevator at the Windsor Hotel, which is one of the earliest and fanciest hotels in Denver, and across a number of different places like that. Some early Black activists, including Edwin Hackley, Colorado's first Black attorney, would be turned out of these places as they tried to test Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act. And so then in 1895, after they saw that this 1885 Act wasn't working, then Joseph Stewart, who was elected and was in the legislature at that time, led the push for a second Civil Rights Act in Colorado in 1895 to try to address the shortcomings of the 1885 Act. The 1895 Act allowed for the pursuit of redress either through criminal charges or through a civil suit for damages. And on paper, this looked like it might provide additional opportunities for Black Coloradans to pursue their rights in court. Unfortunately, again, in practice, it did not work out that way. Because in the law, it provided for Black Coloradans to pursue either a criminal charge or a civil suit. And so what ended up happening was that at the local level, district attorneys would decline to prosecute cases in court by saying that they wanted Black Coloradans to still have the option to pursue these cases at the civil level. But Black Coloradans typically did not have the resources to hire an attorney and pursue their cases in civil court. And so the law, once again, was mostly a dead letter. Every once in a while, attorneys such as Joseph Stewart and Edwin Hackley and some other early Black attorneys would be able to get some minor damages or to get courts to at least acknowledge and attempt to uphold this. But on the whole, businesses and other organizations throughout the state felt that they could ignore this law with impunity all the way up until the 1940s and 50s.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This is James. Sorry.
Well, actually, not that I didn't get on the mic, but anyway, you just quickly go back, because we're talking about the context of the time frame we're talking about. The word barber may not mean what people think it means, right? That, like, so in other words, it could mean that's the time period where a barber could be a place where you just get a haircut, or it could be your haircut, your dentist, maybe your attorney, a variety of. So there's not going to also first legislatures who barbershops want to give a little more context to, just trying to understand it wasn't just a barbershop, or was it, a 1860 barbershop where these are actually very skilled people and a variety of services, a variety of customers. Dr. Stone.
Thank you for that question. I think it's a really good one. This was a period of time when Black Coloradans and Black Americans throughout the country were largely restricted to kind of low wage, quote unquote, low skilled jobs that didn't make a lot of money and didn't have a whole lot of future, like janitor, porter, and so on. And barber was a really important position with within the Black community, because even though it was sort of a service position, it allowed these Black barbers to potentially be able to move up, own their own business, and potentially expand then into having a hotel, having a restaurant, sort of as you alluded to, kind of jack of all trades, political wheeler and dealer types. Everyone would be coming through the barber shop, and so they had a large network of people that they were in touch with. And so it was really a hub of both the economic community and the political community for Black Coloradans at that time.
Very good. And really quick before we go, I have Commissioner Emerson. I wanted to say to you, Commissioner Coleman, that even in 2025, my barber acts more than a barber, but also acts as a therapist and charges me. Conversations about all kinds of stuff going on in the world. This president, anyone who wants to keep on would never go to another barber. Very good.
Right.
You don't do that. That's cheating on. All right. Commissioner Emerson, then we'll come back to Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, I just want to, kind of talk about the archives, piece of information that you collected. Can you tell us a little more about, in detail, what specific collections that you've been using and what information you've been finding there? And then kind of tie that into the process also, the oral history, what's next here?
Who would like to take that? Ms. Walker.
Sure. So in terms of archives, I think we're all using different collections related to the research that we're doing. I in particular have, during the summer, I went to the Library of Congress and did the invoice and key papers and the National Urban Records. Recently, I've been doing a lot of research into Park Hill realty practices and their education efforts. So I've been looking at the Greater Park Hill Community Inc. records that are at DU, and there's also some at DPL. In terms of the oral history process, it's pretty extensive. I average about 8 to 12 hours for each interview in preparation and post work on each interview. There's about 2 to 4 or 5 hours of research prior to the interview, just to make sure that I'm acquainted with the textual story that the person's going to tell. After that, there's several hours of audio editing, transcript editing, getting all the papers and files in order for a session into History Colorado collections. And then I use data software to qualitatively code them so that the rest of the team can access that information.
That's a lot. Just a follow-up.
Commissioner.
Are there any specific libraries locally, like Colorado or anything like that, that you're using when it comes to archives?
Ms. Walker.
Yeah, for me personally, frequently I've been at Denver University's Special Collections and DPL Central is where a lot of the collections that I've been using have been housed.
Very good. Very good. Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, I think to be on this point, I think there are some sources that we want to make sure are intact for the study, and I think, you know, in terms of what's available at Blair Caldwell and Knox Catalog could be helpful across the spectrum. I also think, I was thinking about the Statesman and the Denver Star, the newspapers, and I know that you alluded to some of those in the past. Also the Colorado Historic Newspaper collection. Hoping we're pulling from some census records. And also, I know that I believe the Deerfield archives are at the University of Northern Colorado or UNC. I know the Buffalo Soldiers also. The Night Cavalry was at Fort Garland. And I think there were some exhibitions and scholarship exploring their role and some of the complexities of that also exists. But I wanted to go back to some of what Dr. Stillman was speaking about in terms of the Civil Rights Acts and the ways that Black Coloradans were supposed to be provided opportunities to rectify harms that they had been caused, and how those things did not necessarily amount to what they were due in those instances. And I'm curious as to how those instances or things that happened, how are those things being documented? Because as we look forward and as we go into year 2 of the study, I'm particularly interested in, moving into that economic analysis, how we're going to begin to quantify some of the harms that have been caused to Black Coloradans, and want to really open that question up to any of the panelists. If you have any thoughts, or what you're seeing so far as it relates to that. And I know that you may not know the outcome, right? But just curious, as you're going through this process, if there's anything that stands out to you in particular, like what Dr. Sloman spoke to.
Rock, paper, scissors. Dr. Sloman.
Yes, thank you for that question. We are trying to document as many instances as we can of discrimination and places where, as with the Civil Rights Act, the state fell short in what it promised, and provide some sense of how long these practices took place, over what sort of scope of the state, whether this is Denver specific or Front Range or across the whole state, and provide some then specific examples of how these practices played out on the ground to be able to provide the commission and future steps of the study with then some concrete information, both in terms of personal stories and in terms of data, for what these practices look like and how long they continued and then what effects they had, in terms of not just discrimination in public accommodations and access to businesses, but also housing, criminal justice, banking, business formation, employment, and so on. And once we move, the researchers are already working in the middle of the 20th century and late 20th century, and there starts to be a lot more concrete data there from studies that were conducted at the time, trying to document, put numbers to some of these questions. And Mr. Valdez talked a little bit earlier about the ways that we're trying to extract that data from these studies that exist, in boxes at the Library of Congress or the Denver Public Library, so that data is going to be available within our study and to the public in a more easily accessible fashion as a result of this study.
Mr. Valdez.
I think another important piece to it is with some of the cases that are a little bit better documented, we do have some numbers, and so there might be ways for the people, for us or for the people ahead of us, to do some analysis with back pay, housing costs, and different losses, those types of things. Sadly, I think in a lot of these reports, they are not specific to, some of the testimonies from Black Coloradans are anonymized, and we're not taken to court. So in those cases, we don't have numbers, we just know that the discrimination occurred. So again, I think what we're trying to do with some of these reports and some of these, especially the annual reports from the Civil Rights Commission, is pull out data that's relevant to that economic study so that the Congress can do that with it.
Mr. Murray.
Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. I think, what I'll say, I think to the folks that are here and just also to the commission as we look forward, formulas, going back to my political statistical analysis class at the University of Oklahoma, but the formulas are going to be key because when we look at the population of Black people, during the Civil Rights Act of 1885 and 1895, who for several generations were not provided any avenue to rectify harms that have been caused to them, there's a way to calculate, those harms, right, as we think toward future repair. I'm also just curious, on your thoughts. And we can have further conversation, maybe even offline conversation, but I'm curious about, your thoughts about when we begin reviewing these various sections. And I know that they're not completely done because I know there's data and tables and things that need to be added. But I do want to draw on the expertise that we have with Dr. Garcia and Dr. Romero and other members of the commission as we think about what or how this is being shaped and just having a more detailed view of exactly where we are in terms of just the commission. Not a public release, but something that I put on the table for us to think about, not necessarily looking for anything today.
Very good. Did you also admit to going to the University of Oklahoma?
Actively withdrawn, there's no student record.
We were sort of get Coach Prime on line. Conversation with him about physical element. No question, but any response? If not, we have Commissioner Harrison.
I just kind of want to briefly revisit the health equity research and that. I just want to know, did you do any specific research as it relates to Black women in Colorado, and specifically areas around maternal mortality and morbidity?
Mr. Valdez?
Yes, the short answer is yes. So right now, what we're doing is pulling all of the available maternal health data as far back as we possibly know around those issues, so that we can do a comparative analysis across time periods to see whether or not different policies for you have impacted that in a positive, negative, or neutral way. I think one thing that's also quite staggering from our health equity research is seeing this lack of diversity in the healthcare system and a lot of employment discrimination that was happening, especially in the 40s and 70s, but still not to this day. So I think a big part of our employment discrimination piece, when we get there, will focus a lot on healthcare workers, especially in cases where very qualified people, Black Coloradans, were placed in low-wage jobs as maids or janitors, but were actually doing jobs of doctors and nurses. So I think that we're really excited and seeing that the data is starting to come together for those issues.
Commissioners? Good. All right. Dr. Aurora Garcia, online.
Hello, everyone. Turn off my unmute myself and turn on my camera. Greetings, everyone. I just wanted to add two comments. One, I am so impressed with the depth and resourcefulness of the research that the team has been doing. I feel I love our commissioner meetings because I feel like I'm in class too. I always come away with something new and new thoughts and new questions, and I'm just really, really impressed by the sheer amount and the quality of work that's coming out of the team that's better than I ever could have imagined. And I just wanted to piggyback on that, and I wasn't able to see because I only have the thumbnail of the whole commissioners, but who spoke about at a certain point further on in the process, seeing how you might leverage the talent of Black Studies scholars that we have at Colorado colleges and universities here, like ways that collectively or individually we could help thinking about making that transition into into preparing for the economic aspect, the economic interpretation of what the cost of all these damages and exclusions have been, but to just think of Black scholars at Colorado colleges and universities as yet another resource that might be leveraged somehow further down the road. But thank you for the work that you're doing.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, Mrs. Duplessis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Claire. I have some exciting, encouraging news to share with you. We've actually been working for the past 6 months with the Sachs Foundation to actually have a one-day summit at History Colorado in Q1 that will engage Black scholars and do just that.
Excellent. It's great news.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Further questions before we move into witness testimony? All right. Again, before you all leave the table, just want to say thank you so much. I mean, there is information that, one more thing, I'll come back to you. I just want to say there's so much information that this Dr. Omar Garcia said we're learning, and especially those of us who grew up here in Colorado, the sense of pride that we have from hearing this information that, man, what a difference it would have made in elementary school, middle school, high school, to give you a sense of belonging, connecting your lived experience to your state, and having a sense of pride, and just that information is beautiful, and it's amazing for us to be able to have. And of course, it advises us on how we move forward. It helps us not repeat some of the bad things that have happened, not just here in Colorado, but around the country, and creates a clear path for how we move forward, which is the intent. This is what we're here for. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so glad you're saving me money from having to go to a college and, pay for it. And more education, I'm still paying student loans. Anyways, Mr. Plessis, please.
I just wanted to share with the commission that as it relates to operations, we are still under budget. We are still ahead of schedule. And as of last week, we officially raised the funds to completely honor the historical study portion.
Yeah.
The remaining funding gap is approximately $550,000. And that, of course, will be for the next phase of the work once we turn over the report in March of 2027. So while there is still investment and support needed, it is deeply encouraging to know that we've been able to do that with the donations from everyday Coloradans and some of our statewide organizations. I just wanted to close with that report and also remind everyone that on December 3rd, if you have not purchased your ticket for an evening of jazz at Dazzle Denver, we welcome you to do so. Come and enjoy community, honoring Colonel Singh, also featuring the musical stylings of Desiree Gold and her jazz trio. This is an opportunity for you to celebrate the year, celebrate the research, and talk about all the ways that we're going to show up next year for the final year of research.
Very good. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate your report. And we'll entertain witness testimony. We had one individual signed up to testify. We have online Lauren Smith on Zoom with Soul Sisters. Before we close witness testimony, is there anyone who did not sign up who would like to testify? Great. We'll let you all leave the table here, and we'll have two individuals who raise their hands come up to the table here. Is there anyone else who would close witness testimony? I want to be respectful of times, and we can be adjourned at 5, and so let's bring up two witnesses who raise their hands here first, and then we'll have Lauren Smith online bringing your testimony. Just for folks to know, we'll allow 2 minutes of witness testimony, just so that we also have time for the panel to respond or ask a question to any of the witnesses if they happen to have questions. I want to make sure we honor that as well. Ms. Smith, thank you so much for joining us. Please come off mute, tell us your name, who you represent. Again, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President Coleman. Thank you, members of the commission. My name is Lauren Smith. I'm representing Soul Sisters today in my public comment. Soul Sisters, if you're not familiar, is a racial and reproductive justice organization based in Colorado focused on healing and liberation for Black women, trans, and gender-expansive people. We've been consistently excited and supportive of the efforts of the racial equity study. Our stories and our experiences deserve to be told and understood. And I wanted to open up a little bit of space for us to dream together today of a future where Black women in Colorado can thrive. It's a future that we're dedicated to, and one that we're taking concrete steps towards actualizing. We've heard a lot today about the experiences of Black communities throughout history, and time and time again, Black communities have been prevented from accumulating wealth, or when acquired wealth, have that stripped away through violence and harm. We have a racial wealth gap crisis. Wealth inequality has grown a lot over the last 50 years, and Black households have about 13 cents in wealth for every dollar of wealth owned by white households. These wealth gaps stem from a lot of historical policies and practices, as well as present-day policies such as our federal tax code, and they leave Black Americans behind, excluding them from benefits that can help them grow their assets and build a financially healthy future for themselves and their children and their grandchildren and for all the generations to come. We know that the racial equity study will help us fully understand the devastating impacts that these policies have had on generations of Black families in Colorado, and Soul to Soul Sisters is ready to help dream about what comes next. That's why we've been working closely with community partners, including Colorado Fiscal Institute, to explore the possibility of establishing a baby bonds program in the state. Baby bonds is a program, it's a wealth building policy tool where the government sets aside a significant amount of money for children in a public trust, typically shortly after birth, and invests it in financial vehicles that yield return over time. When these children become adults, they can use these funds to obtain wealth-generating assets, such as purchasing a home, investing in higher education, contributing to a retirement fund, or starting a small business. Baby bonds are a powerful tool for reducing the racial wealth gap and addressing wealth inequality for everybody. And we've seen it already start to work successfully in places like Connecticut, which was the first state to pass the program in 2021. We're currently working with a research team to study what it would take to create this program in Colorado and how it would impact wealth inequality in our state, while also supporting a community-run pilot program that will evaluate how early wealth building accounts impact the attitudes and experiences of young people around the time that they would access the funds. What we learned in the study, which also evaluates the wealth inequality landscape in Colorado, is something that we hope will be complementary to what we're all learning and looking at in the racial equity study. And we really look forward to sharing more about our research in the coming months, in the hopes that baby bonds may be one of the many solutions to repair the harm experienced by Black Coloradans. Thank you so much for your time.
Very good, and thank you so much, Ms. Smith. I know I said 2 minutes for the baby to get through everybody here. And if you're not gonna have, any additional comments, we look forward to working with you on the policy. I think it sounds like an amazing policy. But we get here on the left side of the table. Please tell us your name, who you represent, again, 3 minutes.
My name is Frank Sturgill.
Your microphone's on right on the neck of the mic. There's a button up top. A little bit, there we go. A little bit further down, right there.
Okay. My name is Frank Sturgill. I have been studying corruption and racism and misogyny and professional licensing scams for at least 13 years, really 15. They are startling. I have been studying the laws that are supposed to stop this corruption as well. It was mentioned health equity. I can't say for sure. I would think so if there were more Black doctors. Would there be a difference in health equity? The percentage of Black medical doctors in the United States has been 3.8% since every year since 1978. It tells me that it's a very great game. It's 1/4 of what it should be. But the number of Black students from other countries is actually 2.1%. So it's not a skin problem. It's a United States suppressing people specifically. There hasn't been any DORA awards that have been audited since 2003. The last one was the medical board. We have specific laws in the sunset reviews that are, each of those boards comes up before the legislature, and DORA is supposed to write a report. There's never been any demographics in there, despite demand for DEI and before that affirmative action that law's been in existence since 1976. Is not they do not follow the law at all. There are no Black banks between Los Angeles and Kansas City. And there's come up as what to do. Why is that? Why would we get numbers like that? It seems that's a very good game. I know nurses are too old. Our black nurses presented used to call Denver as the most racist, most misogynistic, most criminal contractor licensing in the entire country, meant to solely protect a few white-owned large contractors. This can all be fixed with just simply following laws. No one does that here. Even we even bribe off the media who finds Doro, and that is in statute CRS 2434 108. The sunset review that I referred to is CRS 2434 104. And I could go on for days.
Thank you, Mr. Sturger. I really appreciate your testimony in all the areas you just summarized. There's just a ton of discrimination, so we appreciate you putting on the record so we can focus on working on it. Tell us your name, you represent the beginning in 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Jesse Bashawn Parris, represent for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Commitment for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado. Northeast Denver Residents Council Frontline Black News, Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced, the Revolutionary Agenda. And I am a 30+ year native of Colorado, 3rd generation. I appreciate the study, I really do. But we need to get to the point of this whole thing, which is reparations, which is tangibles, specifically for a agreed group of people. It's not a free-for-all for all Black people. This is for a specific lineage of Black people, the foundational Black Americans, the people that built this country, the descendants of American child slavery, the freedmen. As Frank alluded to, there has been emphasis on helping Black immigrants, whereas they're not helping freedmen get into these schools, get into these colleges, get into these health fields, get into these tech and science fields. It's not being emphasized. So I would like to see a study on that. Also, we need an anti-Black hate crime bill. I don't hear none of politicians, especially Democrats, talking about a hate crime bill. We are still the #1 victim of hate crimes in this country, in the state, and in the city. And as, again, Frank alluded to, this is a very racist city, a very racist state, and a very racist country. And even the Southern Poverty Law Center said that. We're still the #1 victim of hate crimes. We just still don't have no hate crime bill. We're seeing the Asians got a hate crime bill though during COVID, but we are still the #1 victim of hate crimes, and we still don't have an anti-Black hate crime bill. So I would like to see a study done on the number of hate crimes that we've experienced since this country's inception, or since the state's inception, really, because we are the bicentennial state. So since this state's inception, I would like to know how many hate crimes we've had, how many went actually unsolved. We touched on the lynchings, we touched on the hangings, the classification for lynching is pretty broad. Also, I would like to know what's being done about the police. We're still getting victimized by the police. Is there a study being done about that? Police brutality against foundational Black Americans? Is there a study on health? Where's the Black doctors, specifically the foundational Black American Black doctors? Because we might have some doctors that look like us, but they're not of the lineage, and they're not going to take care of us like somebody of the lineage would. So I'd like to see a study on that as well. Not to go out my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parris. And what I would say, I appreciate your testimony. The beauty of this commission and work that the District of Colorado is doing is not limited to only one particular area of interest, but it is all inclusive of all those issues. And so, glad that you said share this with my agenda. They're here to hear this, and I'm sure they can do their work to come back and make sure we have more data and information. So
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Last but not least, please tell us your name and who you represent to begin.
Forgive me that I'm all messed up. High condition. Sorry, I can't get sleep. I'm gonna appreciate the pen. My name is Brandon Green Wagers. Obviously, ambiguous looking at a foundational Black American. On my father's side, Indian British. Mostly. I'm just going to get right to it. Right? And as great as this study is, we just sat back and heard about how they treated Black women committed crimes way back then. This is just the start of your start times. You're looking at from this time to 1980. I mean, you gotta go further back. You gotta go back to where it started as when this became a territory, when this actually became a state. You have racism, active racism, right there above your heads. Right there, right above your heads. A whole line of white lies, right above your heads. Okay. I'm just gonna ask a series of questions, very serious questions. If someone was to draft anti-Black racism triangle, something that protects specific lineage people, would you walk that through to the governor's office? If it's written in your language, the coding that you use, like whereas and whatnot, would you walk it through? Meaning, could you be trusted to endorse it because it'll cover everything that we're looking for? When we talk about anti-racism, Black racism, we're talking about how the mistreatment of us versus them, it starts in the medical field, okay, where they stole our genetics, used them for all sorts of experiments. Prison system, where they do that to the men as well as the women. They sell our genetic makeup every time they swab our mouths for felonies. The other thing, as they steal our genetics only to use it for nefarious purposes, we are left with no answers, no repair, no give back. You don't even know. When we talk about maternal death, yes, that is very serious. But we also have to start with how we were treated, how Black women were treated from start to finish, how they couldn't hold a baby inside because of the stressors of racism and white supremacy actively. We're looking at the penitentiary, from the start of the penitentiary. Why was it a death sentence for simple things? You know what I mean? With men and women. When you ask about the children, we're looking at the juvenile justice system, how they're treated as soon as they go in. You may have 2 more minutes, I found something brief. Okay. What we're looking for is simple. If a drafted bill comes to you, you'll try to look at it, you'll read it, and specific in your languages that you use to make other things move clearly to go through, be able to sit down, read it, interpret it, and walk that through. It's very serious. What we do here moves to the other states. You'll thank me later for it. The other thing is, if we write that somebody has drafted a bill for repair with an actual number for cash-based, lineage-based reparation, will you walk that through? The reason I say that is because you are closest to the government. This is something that we're, as beautiful as everybody thinks this is really an atrocity. Every single moment of it. It's not trauma bonding, it's an ugly, ugly history. We suffer from colorism amongst our own politicians, right? They say this is a Black woman, Black political action movement, yet they color us. Also, one more thing. When we're talking about the demographics between more melanated family members and more melanated people, we look also for the mulattoes. There were categories that were left out or given privilege when there was not. But they were also defined by either hair texture, color of eyes, looked at as whether they could afford to be there. they also go into the covenant as well, treated under the Black Code, what's the word I was looking for?
For the people of color.
That right there is very important because not all mulattoes were close to the proximity of whiteness. You want to look at also to the Masons, things like that are really important. All these things matter, and they all start way back from the time you have up further back. And one more question. The migration thing was brought up. Are we referring to the Great Migration? Because not only are we looking at it from the south to the north, from that way to this way, we want to talk about from this way to that way. And how we were treated where we couldn't even feed our children as we picked fruit and sat so close to each other. There was no way, the camps, the things that we had to live in, having the children watch our children, we go pick fruit and stuff like that, or little pig. People died en route in the Great Migration. I want to know about that too. Thank you, it's very important. I'm sorry I took up your time. Please have a wonderful evening.
No, it's all good. Don't apologize. This is one of the very few spaces that you can come to and you heard and have that.
Excellent.
We are on the same level. Let me just say this, Ms. Megan, because I like to answer plainly, yes. And that's a short answer for any policies that come from this conversation that are informed and advised. We're always open to. You talking to the legislators, pass the first police brutality in the country.
Well, because we're also looking to codify.
And to your point, I want to respect. To your point, no, you're fine.
You're intimidating, sir.
To your point, what we do in Colorado usually is a model for other places around the country. And then what we passed here, in particular when it comes to police brutality, was copied and pasted, and that was just the beginning. We got more work to do, right? So, no, not at all. So I just want to say thank y'all for coming. We definitely are about the work, and just grateful for everybody that's part of the commission, for those who came to testify, for History Colorado, all the phenomenal work that you're doing, for the money that's been raised. I also want to point out, this conversation would have never happened had people in the state of Colorado helped to fund this conversation. We were not able to get taxpayer dollars from the state of Colorado for this commission, but it has been heavily fundraised by community and with History Colorado support. We still got a little work to do with $550,000 if you didn't hear that. So, times are tough. We know that it's that time of the year, but as we're continuing to do this work, we definitely want to make sure we reach that goal. The racial equity study report is due to our General Assembly and Governor by March 2027. So we still got a ways to go and continue this work. Quarterly updates and meeting materials are always posted online at links.colorado.gov. Our next in-person meeting is to be decided. It's next interim. And so we are allowed to meet once during session if necessary. Otherwise, updates will be sent to members and posted to the website for the public to be able to see updates from History Colorado. But just want to make sure you all know what next steps are in terms of timeline. I know we're past 5, but just wanted to see if any of the members had any final comments before we close.
I just want to say thank you, Corey, for your introduction. It set the tone for today. It took me back to, as you may or may not know, PK took me back to my church days as a little girl, and how important it is that we hold on to those historical things that we did back in the day, that we don't lose that. And so I just want to say thank you for reminding us about that. And I just want to say before everyone, we have the right person leading this project in you. So thank you so much for your work, Chloe. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And then, Mr. Burke.
I'd like to echo those sentiments to this research team. I know the fellows and the graduate assistants and the researchers, you all have done amazing work. I continue to be blown out of the water by what you've accomplished in the time that you've had. I also just want to lift up the team here that I see from History Colorado. Don has been at these meetings, the CEO, and I appreciate your support and you putting your time and your money where your mouth was and showing up for us. I also see our Marcy Morgans and our Akama and the full team is here. So Ms. Gentry, Mrs. Gentry, thank you all for your continued support as well. And then lastly, there are several donors here, folks who really put their money where their mouth is as well. And so I see Lottie, who's been continuously supportive of this effort. And I just want to say thank you to you all as well.
Very good. All right, well, seeing no further discussion, the Colorado Black Racial Equity Study Commission is adjourned.
The chairs behind you.
I know, right? Great to meet you. Oh my God.
Let's go to we have one other event to go to. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry. Thank you. Of course. Bye, boss.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too. Michael Pan reached out to Coleman, and I think he reached out to you. So.
Michael who? I'm sorry.
Pan.
Pan?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna circle back.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, ma'am, right here. Oh, tip over.
Oh, yeah. I can't even lift myself right now.
I gotta lift this up. Yeah. That one is kind of low.
Is it too high?
No, it's just, you know how it slides down? I was trying to pull it out.
It hurts. My body hurts.
Huh. We got a whole nother event to go to. Walk around in a big old circle.
See, nobody wants to talk to us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, the water fell out.
That's the only way that.
Yep. Tagged. Went to his chicken later. He's on my stream.
I heard him. Told me that a long time ago.
Michael said he's proud of us.
Let me see it.
Proud of both of you.
Let me see my phone. That's for filming too. All right, man. Where does it?
Jason got that.
Huh?
Hello.
you understand what I'm saying. You got to talk to me, right? Mm-hmm. That, ladies and gentlemen, all that family, that is how you get it done.
There he is.
You asked the right question.
You know you ain't gonna never apologize. You know you welcome in the house. It's all about you nervous. You know how we get down. Right. You know how we get down. Yeah, nah, I just gotta make sure everybody gets the same amount of time. Nah, you fine. You fine. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, dude, look, man, I've been for 9 years, and you look back, you like the problems that were problems when I ran into problems.
Yeah.
Right.
And even though you got like a little change here or there, so yeah, I'm down with it because like at some point you like, man, I'm turned out. You know, I'm not running for nothing. Like, let's go, let's get it.
Right.
And some of the things that we felt, you know, with prior leaders, where we knew they were turned out at the federal level or city or state. And it's like, what do you got to lose?
Right.
You don't got to be reckless, but like, be bold, man.
Right.
And what I'll tell you is, I found that when you just be your authentic self, you can still be Senate president. You know, like I mean, like there's like 2 black men in the whole Senate,
Right.
and I'm just honored that my colleagues were like, yeah, we'll take you, get up there and do your thing. But I think there's a lot of people who are afraid to be their authentic self because they're worried about perception. And like, dude, you look at New York's mayor, elect, people are like, man, look, I don't always agree, but I just want to know if you're ready to rock. Let's go. Let's get some work done. And let's find the solutions, but like, let's stop playing. So,
right.
That's
no,
what
you're good. You're good.
I did the work.
Yeah.
Drafted and everything in the coded languages. That's the problem. Is it there's a lot of things that could have been solved by just enforcing the laws that are already there. But the thing is this: if we can actually do it correctly, especially against black races, it's basically not just jail. We're talking about asset forfeiture.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna take your house.
Yeah.
You
take your belongings.
If you can get it from you, get it from your wife. We're talking about
Yeah.
all the way up the chain.
Yeah.
You know, stripping them of everything.
Yeah.
Because that internal investigation stuff, that's for the birds.
Yeah.
We don't ever get to really see justice because 1 or 2 times. You got ambulance chasers in our own community.
Yeah.
Doing, basically saying it's under the epitome of black excellence. What it really is antagonistic, and it causes, other work to not get done, or we can't look at these particular black people because they're there to hinder the progress of actual black work.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In our own community, and they hate us, and we're glad they hate us. We're come to.
Yeah, you ain't here to be liked either. You know, you're here to get work done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be a villain to get the work done, to get God's work done.
That's right. Come on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm with it.
Tired of people messing with us, but look, even if it's just me and Jesse all the time, we don't have that welcome in places like this.
Yeah.
We got like manhandled like 3 times before we got here. Like us and then one other brother. But they didn't do any of that to a white lady who walked in right after us.
Yeah. I mean, look, people always make fun of me for wearing my suit all the time, and I'm like, you don't understand why I wear this jacket.
Right.
You know, because I've been in functions wearing whatever, and like I get treated differently without having that pin on. You know?
Yeah.
But I want to say this too. We ran a traumatic brain injury bill. And that was from 3 brothers who had served a total of 60 years in prison, right?
Yeah.
And they called me over to the Northeast Denver Law Center, and they were like,
yeah, that's
hey,
my boy. That's my boy's ABOs.
That's right. And they were like, hey man, can we have it drafted? We look at the budgets, everything you said, like you give us that, and then we can just look at it and figure out how to implement it. So
because the thing is, you should have to fundraise.
I know.
You should have to fundraise for our
right.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this is like almost an embarrassment to our kids.
It is. So like we said this when we ran this bill, we said we know, but what we have to do is we have to show you like data. They have to see numbers and historic. Like we know.
You know that those numbers are not always the right number.
Well, yeah, but then because History Colorado's connected to the state, it's seen sometimes as more valid,
more legitimate. Yeah,
and it's valid, but more valid.
Yeah.
And so that's how you overcome that constitutional barrier. Because man, we'd be like, yeah, we're gonna give money to women and minority-owned businesses, and they'll be like, all right, cool, we're gonna sue you on the grounds of discrimination. And I'm like, where is that at? They're like, the Colorado Constitution. Thank you. And then that bill dies, right? And so it's a mix of getting the data from the source we need in order to uphold in court.
Right.
Right. A, but B, being unapologetic about real policy. Because then when we do this, it's like, all right, y'all got the information, so now what? So now let's go to work. So I'm with it.
Like we worked on the whole thing for just the mayoral run, right?
Yeah.
How the actual mayor got that information was off of a flyer that I created just for blacks, Black Americans. We handed it off to somebody, a black hand, handed over to the white hand. That's how he gets to run on my intellectual property and do all this stuff, and then not do it correctly. We wouldn't have had a $200 million deficit.
You guys have a good outcome for your caucus?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. It's all good.
Thank you.
Stop it. Yeah, good to see you.
Oh, you too.
Yeah.
Glad that health equity is a big part of that.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for being in here. I saw you in there. Good looking. Thank you.
You too.
Yeah.
I was talking about Emerson, because she colorizes people. You know, but she does intentionally do it. It disrespects his intentionally. And it's like not, you know, you can be a pretty black face if you want to, but we know you're not doing the work.
Right.
Because you're, we're calling them doing polite Negro pleasantries. You're not really authentic at all. You're not within your blackness. You apologize before you actually be serious.
Yeah, that organization ain't been the same since Halisi left.
White people in a black ran organization, they give me major pause. Even if I'm as fair as I am, I'm black first. You see? And so it upsets me because this is a constant disrespect that I see often, even with the other democratically led, I would say political action groups, to teach people how to run for office. They don't allow me to go in.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I should want an independent centric and myself who can't be blocked, can't talk to you about anything, to go and run for something because it's the work. You know, versus just pleasantry.
Well, yeah, it's like you said, like you gotta have both, right? Like you gotta have people who can get in those spaces, and then you gotta have people who go to work and go to fight. And that's how, I mean, again, we talk about this all the time, but that's how the Civil Rights Act got passed. You know what I mean? You got Dr. King in the room, you know what I'm saying? But then he said, Lyndon B. Johnson was like, make me do it. You know, it's like, man, I need y'all, you know, and then you got the people in the Civil Rights Movement who got their behinds beat and got dogs sicked on and milkshakes poured over their head. And they were even then they were bye-bye was still late. Even then they were peacefully protesting, but it was a different form. Like being cordial.
And it wasn't no peaceful. It wasn't just a peaceful protesting. The Black Panthers was acting up.
We got everybody.
Mr. G, I saw you.
Hey, Miss Terry.
How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for getting up there.
Yes. Okay, comment. Oh, Michael's gonna reach out to you. Our friend Michael Pan. Okay. He sent you an email, so please respond to him.
All right.
Yeah, he did say he was coming to Washington to get his check.
Right. Okay, well, y'all missed it over here because I was already giving them that word. Because that, ladies and gentlemen, pieces by lady, the cats, man, they ate my hair.
We gotta get to the. We gotta get to the other event.
Look at all.
Okay. I thought you emailed him too. I said you was gonna email him as well. She got the chair. I don't think we got enough room. Thank you, though.
Can't play around with it. I can't play around.
Yeah.
I was equally so disgusted.
Oh, gee.
You see how I pointed out
Yeah.
the pictures? The walls.
Mm-hmm.
Active racism right here on the walls.
Okay.
White lies there. Yes,
Email too. He responds to emails too, Michael.
You see that, Michael? You see how you?
Yeah. Oh no. What happened to the line? Did the time reset? The hell? Do I have any change? No. No. It's expensive to sit here. Oh yeah, we got a town hall to go to. So I'll go live again when we get to the town hall.